Take it away.
Hello, and welcome to our First Geek 411 book club. Tonight we will be talking about the Shang-Chi Master of Kung Fu Epic Collection, Weapon of the Soul. New favorite Marvel superhero? We'll find out. Before we get into that, you can find us at all of the social medias as One Geek 411 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Come chat with us at our Discord server or shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Check out the show notes on our website, onegeek411.com, and watch our live podcast show on Twitch every Monday night at 6:45 Mountain Time, and find our videos on YouTube. Rate and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and check out our Redbubble store for all the cool stuffs. I'm Shanine, and with me, I have Emma.
Hi.
Hi. And Cameron.
Hello, hello.
And Chris.
What's up?
90s TMNT. Come
What's
on.
up?
All right. So, yes, we have read Master of Kung Fu Epic Collection, Weapon of the Soul, where Shang-Chi is locked in a never-ending battle against Fu Manchu, who, spoiler alert, is his father. My alternate title for these comics are Shang-Chi's Sightseeing World Tour Interrupted, in which Shang-Chi is just trying to travel and his dad keeps sending assassins after him, who frankly aren't even that good.
Yeah. Feels accurate.
Yep. Basically.
Yeah.
My favorite thing is that Fu Manchu's supposed to be like this great genius that's been alive forever. All of his plots are very basic.
Yep.
Like, super basic.
I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yeah.
All right. First impressions in 6 words or less.
Oh boy.
This was definitely written in the 70s.
Yes.
It was great. I don't know what the problem is. No, it's awful. Literally the worst. It hurt me reading this.
Wow.
Yeah. Like,
That
Oh, boy.
was some stuff.
yeah. Like, I'm putting this below Treasure Island for a long time. Like, long time listeners for book club.
Like
this
here's Treasure Island. Fu Manchu
Yeah.
is like down
This is
here
a significant
or
gap.
whatever. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a thing. But, I mean, I'm sure the movie being made is better.
We'll get to that too. You didn't look at the questions again, did you, Chris?
Do I ever?
I sent them last night.
I don't think I actually got the link.
she sent it in the
It's in the
Discord,
chat.
not through email.
Take you next time. Okay, what did you know about Shang-Chi going into this?
I knew there was a
Nothing.
movie. Yeah. And I knew that we had talked that there was a Shang-Chi reboot in the comics that people didn't like. That was basically the extent of what I knew. And that now
In
blows my
comparison
mind.
to this,
Yeah, I
that
think
must
maybe
mean
there's
the reboot must have been worse,
yeah, I have no idea.
which is hard to believe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Same. I mean, like, the villains are familiar. But, yeah, Shang-Chi himself, no, not as much.
Yeah. Basically, I've seen the trailer.
Mhm.
And I know that he's played by that guy from Kim's Convenience. And that's about what I know.
That guy.
Yep. So, how does this compare to other superhero comics you have read?
It doesn't.
No, it's far below the other ones I read. Like, I have the first sort of collection of Thor books on my shelf because big Thor person, and those were pretty like basic, flatline, like whatever. But they were
What?
considerably more interesting than this.
When are
And-
those ones from? Just curious.
Please be like the next year or something like that. Like,
The
They just clear-
80s?
So a whole decade.
80s.
Or no, 62 to 64.
Oh,
oh yeah, so
Oh,
those
okay.
were before. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, these
All
were
right.
before. Not nearly as racist.
So it being from the 70s isn't quite the excuse we were hoping it would be.
Yeah. Yeah. But quite a bit more interesting. Quite a bit more like there was like actually like fun interactions between characters too, and like whatever. Whereas Shang-Chi is just like
Yeah, the comics I've read are kind of random all over the place, but I have read a few from that 70s ish era. And yeah, Shang-Chi is rough.
Mhm.
mm-hmm.
It becomes apparent very quickly why this character didn't catch on. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
yep. I feel like that's gonna basically
Yep.
just be like the premise of this book club. Is just like,
Yep.
Okay. What did you think of the storytelling style?
I mean, it was whoever mentioned it earlier. Basically, he's just wanting to sightsee, and his dad keeps sending assassins after him. So it's like, for a book that's like 400 pages long, or at least my version, like you could have added some more excitement in there. Like, sure, he lived the basic sheltered life, if you will, up to that point, and he just wants to see things. But like, you could have, like, storytelling wise, like it does in some ways fit a basic comic Marvel DC format, but to what extent?
to what extent?
To what extent?
It was a lot weirder than I was expecting.
Mhm.
Lots of mental monologue.
Yeah, for a book called Master of Kung Fu, the Kung Fu wasn't great. And like the actual, like, there's a whole lot of just like generic stoic martial artist. Like this internal, like Shang-Chi's like internal dialogue, things like that. Like there's a whole lot of that.
Yeah. Scott Higa, the Christian nerd, messaged me when I announced that we were reading this for book club. And he's like, oh, good luck. There's a lot of
Yeah.
words.
Yeah,
A lot of
accurate.
words in 70s comics. And Shang-Chi wasn't great. And I messaged him and was like, well, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
And yeah, something about the Kung Fu that I found particularly amusing, I guess, was he'd be like, oh, I made like this huge mistake. And then I beat him.
Yeah.
Oh.
But it was okay because I
Okay.
centered myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a good part of this that's like, in terms of the art and like what you're seeing, like I'm not even sure this is kung fu.
Yeah.
It's like you
I mean,
keep
I don't
saying
know
that, but
much
I'm not
about
sure you know what kung
but
fu is. Like,
You're
It's
supposed to be a
definitely
master
Kung
of it.
Fu.
like this. It's like I feel like you're mixing up a couple cultures here.
Right. Which I mean, I do feel like accurately sums up like 70s Marvel.
Yeah.
But like
Not sure this is the thing you say it is.
right.
Which is
I feel
weird
like-
because like the 70s, like you had great models of kung fu movies from the 70s.
I think there are some Shang-Chi / Bruce Lee comics.
They do mention Bruce Lee in here.
Mhm.
But
I
yeah,
don't
I
think
mean,
it got that far.
like definitely I was expecting more of seeing like a Bruce Lee-esque character. definitely did not hit that.
No.
And actually, I think even early on, like just to further point out that they're culturally confused, like it does talk like early on, they refer to as like teachers as senseis. That's not kung fu. It's not even Chinese.
That's rough.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's rough, buddy.
Yeah.
I feel like the quote Zuko, just like, yeah, that's rough.
That's rough. Should be seafood.
That is
Yeah.
my most quoted Avatar quote. Okay. We will get to more of that later on, but for now, of the comics that we have read, did we have a favorite story or a least favorite story?
Okay. So the biggest tragedy of this is that giant size Spider-Man #2 is in this collection with all the other awful comics. Like
I
that
didn't
one.
get to that one.
Yeah, that highly recommend. That one is actually good because Spider-Man is good. It's one of those that like all the reason that like that they are so poor at writing Shang-Chi plays really well when you put him with Spider-Man, because they have like back and forth. You get to see he has like his like, whoa, this person talks a lot, but they're not boasting. They're actually trying to use it like tactically. And so like you kind of get this cool like back and forth between them. And it's like, this is actually interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the rest of it.
Well, you have the like, I'll give that credit because like it's that's like a middle piece. So like as these comics are coming out, this is a piece that is the crossover.
Yeah.
Like it fits in both Spider-Man's story that was being told and Shang-Chi's. So this is the crossover thing, and then it goes back to just being him.
Yeah.
No, not saying that it shouldn't be in here, just that it's a travesty that is so much better than everything else that's in this book.
Yeah. It took a crossover coming in for it to pick up. I guess off the top of my head, aside from that one that I didn't read, I got maybe a quarter through, but the one for me that had the most happen in the grand scheme of the story was the very first one, where like you actually learn about his history and past of like, like he grew up in a sheltered house, or if you will, and his dad taught him kung fu, and then he learns that his dad is not who he claims he is, essentially. Like his morals are not really good morals, and then he just leaves. I was like, nah, bro, don't like where you're going with this. And like that's like, okay, like that's fair.
I like that sets him up, but it's definitely not well developed.
No,
it's just
that
like,
was my thought too.
It's like, peace,
it
Dad.
doesn't follow through.
Boom.
Like,
yeah, I definitely thought there'd be some interesting character development from that.
Yeah,
and then there wasn't.
There just wasn't much follow through.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit you with this. You need to have character to have character development.
Yes.
Like
he just spends his time wandering around going, oh, like my dad's a bad person, but I'm just gonna like ignore it and go see the planet. I was like, that's not a personality, that's just poor writing. Motive, drive, something to live for. Like you have nothing to live for, dude. Like give him something to do with his life.
What he's doing is good. He has to do good. And kung fu.
And
kung fu.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the one like is pretty early on. Kind of his first outing in Miami, when he first gets to Miami with the boat and stuff.
Oh yeah. Or he blows it up.
Yeah. Mostly because we see kind of we see Fu Manchu, or kind of some of these plot arcs that we see in the MCU revolving around the Mandarin, like in that single issue, which was cool. With the kind of the fiery explosive serum that Fu Manchu pours on his followers. That's what we saw in Iron Man 3. That's the Mandarin arc from for the most part. It's fake Mandarin in the MCU, but we kind of see those tropes. Like we get to see some Mandarin tropes, which is what I liked. In preparation. Did like where he fought the shark.
Then later when he fights the alligator.
And the alligator.
I forgot about the shark. Man.
I do appreciate how ridiculous comics can be in that regard. That's what makes them fun.
I do also like that this comic shows how incompetent police can be.
Right.
At least it's like everywhere though.
Yeah.
It's like Shang-Chi will go to like a random country, fight like 50 people, and then just no one, like in the middle of the city, and just walk around. Like,
yeah, in a red
right. The least subtle outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like
With basically a target painted on his back. Like
yeah. And that Shang-Chi is just his person. It's him. There's no alter ego for the superhero aspect or the hero aspect. Is weird.
Yeah, I guess that is true. I hadn't thought about that. Like, even like Tony Stark, Iron Man, like there is some separation of person and hero with Iron Man. Like, but there isn't any separation. Because he just wants to wander around. See things. But does his dad let him? No. Never.
Yep. Well, as far as favorite arcs go, I agree with Cameron. The Spider-Man one was probably the best because Spider-Man.
Because reasons.
If I had to pick one of like the purely Shang-Chi ones, there was one where he like randomly met this girl who runs a martial arts studio, and then it turns out that she was the daughter of this scientist guy that he had to go protect. And I don't know, at least that plot seemed like slightly different from the rest of them.
And yeah, and I'll say I really liked when his half sister, Falos Sue, it has 2 E's. I do not know how to pronounce that.
No one does.
I liked when no one does. I liked when she showed up as like that, like foil for his father or their father. But yeah, and that's kind of just like, yeah, like I think that comes up in actually the one called Weapon of the Soul. I could be wrong there, but in terms of actual Shang-Chi arcs, that one was decent.
Agreed. Did any of them stand out as being the absolute worst?
His birthday.
Oh yeah,
was a
his
weird
birthday.
one.
Yeah, with the 7 assassins or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like they admittedly got better. Like they never got good, but like I feel like the more like comics they had, the more that it did get better. So I would say probably the first one was probably the least favorite of mine.
Yeah, for me, it's just that the birthday was weird. It, you know, his dad's arrogance. I don't know how people keep following. It's like your plans keep failing against your own son.
Yeah.
The thing I don't understand about that one too is like when he sneaks into his dad's like fortress or whatever and sees
Multiple
the 7
times.
assassins multiple times, but he sees these 7 assassins walking in to have this meeting. He pulls that classic trick of like knocking one of them out and like taking their clothes and whatnot. But he literally, instead of knocking just one out, he knocks 2 out and replaces the second one with the sand dummy of himself. So that basically implies that he's just walking around holding up the second guy. And it's just like,
no, it said that his dad had like another one right outside the door.
oh, so he would have seen it?
Yeah.
Okay, I completely missed
Yeah,
that.
I missed
just
that
like,
as well.
why would he knock out the last 2 and like to replace one of them with like the sand guy?
Okay, and here's a quote for why that is so funny. So after that has been revealed, Shang-Chi says, "But I am not immune to my father's propensity for flourish. And 2 have I learned from him that many things must be done purely for effect." Like they're just drama queens.
Yeah.
How is that anything for?
They can't
If I
just
were
kill
in
each
that
other. They have to be
situation-
dramatic about it.
It was just like that just takes more effort to like knock out a second guy and replace it with a sandbag dummy version of yourself. Like, what's the point of that?
I guess you wouldn't
It
have much
is
of a story
drama.
if he just killed his dad outright. It's just
Yeah.
What you could. He's had so many opportunities.
Right.
Or his dad could just kill him off. Like it's
Yeah.
like
Again, Shang-Chi is not subtle. Like
I don't know where he is.
Just dramatic.
Mhm.
I think my least favorite one was the Florida swamp one with the random swamp monster and that other guy. And I didn't really know what was happening the entire
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And then it just like was never
Like,
referenced
are we
ever
supposed
again.
to know that character or something? He's supposed to have
is that
I
man
feel like
thing?
if they'd expanded on
something.
that and like let it into something else where it was like, okay, this makes sense in context, it would have worked out really well. But like it was just by itself. And like that was left at that. So it was just like, what?
Yeah, we never figure out what's up with his character.
It's just weird.
So you're gonna
Much
ride
less
around
that-
in a monster of
well-
mucus for a while?
Much less that Shang-Chi also is like asking these very philosophical questions. He's like, dude, I don't know what's going on with you. It's like I just pulled you out of that thing. That's all I know about you.
Yeah.
So you're asking, what about your dad? It's messed up, dude.
Yep. All right. Any favorite or least favorite villains and side characters?
Spider-Man was my favorite. um, um, as I said earlier, I kind of enjoyed his half sister, like having her in the story. Other than that, like the other people are kind of there, and then there's just like
Yeah.
all the assassins that I'm not convinced have literally ever done anything.
I hate that they killed off Midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like right away. I wanted him to be recurring and then he's dead. It was just like, oh.
Again, could have gone somewhere cool with that.
Yeah.
Especially with that like childhood connection.
Yeah, it
Like,
could have that should have been like a recurring character and you know, ties to his past that he's trying to redeem. But no, it's just like, nope. These are the paths we're on, you're dead.
Yeah.
Done. Also, no capes, apparently.
Also,
No
no
capes.
capes.
No capes.
No capes, and don't stand anywhere near Shang-Chi. You will be killed.
True.
That's pretty much just a guarantee, I feel like.
Take a shuriken to the knee.
Like, yeah. If you're innocent, don't stand near him. If you're an
Right.
assassin,
Also, probably.
I mean,
shouldn't
either
stand
way,
there.
you're just gonna
Probably.
die. Like, I mean, I feel like the dad as like a villain could have been more dynamic. Like, all of his motives were there. It's just like, you know, he basically wants to rule the world, straight up. Like, that's the case with a
Because
lot of
Asians are simpletons,
heroes.
and he's a simpleton.
Yes. But like, again, as we've been saying, like, all of his efforts and ideas just like flat out fail in regards to trying to kill his son. Like, he's literally his father who raised him, so like he knows what makes Shang-Chi tick and how he fights and all of these things. So like he has all of these options and capabilities and knowledge that could just drive his motives and that he could use to his benefit, and he doesn't. Like, he doesn't use the tools in his toolkit to achieve his motives. And it's just like, you like this entire baseline for this and concept for this character and this storyline, and you're not playing it to its benefit.
Favorite side character, the dolphin.
Yep.
We got the best reaction out of Shang-Chi out of the dolphin.
I don't think I got that far, but I'll take your word for it.
It's pretty early
what
on.
was his reaction?
The
Was that
dolphin gets
before or
shot.
after?
Yeah, and then he like
yeah.
And then
he like legitimately is like more concerned about the dolphin than like the hundreds of people that he's murdered.
yeah.
Oh, so that
He
was,
goes.
yeah,
He actually goes
okay.
into a rage over the dolphin.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember that now.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. I think his sister kind of stands out as the most interesting side character.
Does she live?
Yes. She does. Oh yeah, and then Shang-Chi stole the ruby
Yeah.
eye earrings from her, and then we never heard about them ever again.
He smashes them, and then the dust travels away, never to be heard from again.
That's the thing. I feel like one of the big things that these writers and this whole collection lacks is follow through. Like, they set up, there's several times where they set up very good potential storylines and like very, like, they have ideas that could go a long way, and then they just don't go forward with them.
It's definitely like a flavor of the issue style.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the recurring themes are Shang-Chi and Fu Manchu. That's all
Yeah.
you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is just in that issue so we can print something.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Other than Spider-Man, did you have any favorite cameos? I don't know if you guys would have gotten to all of the cameos that there were.
I say the fact that you put this on here and you excluded Spider-Man, I clearly did not get to whatever cameos you're
I
thinking of.
think they were mostly in the giant size master of kung fu. I'm just excluding Spider-Man because we have brought him up several times so far. But there's this random like 5 pages in the middle of one of them where they're like, here's Shaolin technique and the history of it. And you're like, okay, what? And then they're like, here's Iron Fist showing you some forms.
Iron Fist
Oh,
for
yeah.
a little
Yes,
bit.
I did get to that. Yes.
Okay, yeah. It's like, okay.
Like that
sure.
bit, I would have loved to see more interaction between the two of them because they
or any interaction.
Right.
Or any interaction. Like I was skimming at that point. Like they follow very similar disciplines. Granted from very different backstories, but like
and one got more developed because he was white.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that like that's one of those like dream team like pair ups in my mind, like Iron Fist and Shang-Chi.
Iron Fist doesn't have much character either, so
perfect.
I
off each other well.
You know, again, like
I didn't say he had a lot of development. I'm just saying he had more than.
The thing is, though, I feel like at their base form, most superheroes in like their comic form don't have a lot of character. Like that's just from my exposure. Like the very base of it, like when you go back to their original comics, they just don't have a lot of character. And then that like more character is built over like the different comic series and like versions of that character that exists. But what do I know? I've only read like 4 different comics total.
Okay, well, my other favorite cameo. So in the giant size master of kung fu, there's also like, I don't know, they have like the Shang-Chi part, and then they have this other continuing story that has nothing to do with Shang-Chi, but
that really confused me.
There about Yellow Claw, this like other evil Asian guy. I don't know. It was vague.
Quite vague.
But then the person who shows up to stop him continuously throughout the story is our beloved Agent Jimmy Woo.
Jimmy Woo.
Jimmy Woo.
Jimmy Woo.
I was like, hey, I know that guy.
Yeah. I got halfway through that giant sized one. So I missed that. But Jimmy Woo.
Yeah. I didn't know what was going on with the rest of the Yellow Claw storyline, but Jimmy Woo was there, so
at least there's that.
Right. Did you find the world and characters believable?
So Travis in chat said a little bit ago, to be fair, it's a comic in the 70s aimed at 5 to 14-year-olds. So like, I think with that in mind, sure. Like it's one of those things that like in the vein of, as long as you don't think about it, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like it's believable enough. Sure. Fu Manchu has this long line of assassins that all are
trying to
super loyal to him, even though literally they all die on the first missions they get sent on.
It's just Ra's al Ghul, okay?
Right, basically. He's worse Ra's al Ghul. Yeah.
It's worse Ra's al Ghul.
And yeah, so like in that sense,
Diet Ra's al Ghul.
like, yeah, sure, realistic enough. No giant squids, 0 out of 10.
Now I'm just picturing him trying to fight off a giant squid, and it just doesn't go well.
I'll tell you what, he will center himself and aim his punch, and then
real well.
Yeah.
But the shark made a mistake.
I have a quote. In one of the first one or two comics, I don't know. But Shang-Chi says, some would say I am fortunate to have learned of the deception practiced upon me, to have divorced myself from this empire of evil. But I have not lost an empire. I have lost a father. And in the world, I can never find another. And in that moment, I was like, wow, what a realistic response.
Mhm.
That must be really hard.
And then immediately in the
for
next
the next
frame.
like 12 comics, he's like, well, I guess I have to kill Fu Manchu.
I guess I gotta punch some
Yeah.
stuff.
Gotta kill my dad now.
So it was almost realistic, and then
Like, yeah,
it
and
wasn't.
he keeps talking about tearing down his father's empire, but you don't see him doing anything to actively tear down his father's empire.
Right.
It's mostly just him, as Shanine said, walking around, exploring
doing
the Earth,
stuff.
just doing stuff, and his father sending assassins at him. That's his interaction with his father. Are the assassins? That's it.
Yeah.
Well, and then he goes to his father's secret base to be like, hey, why did you try and kill me? I'm gonna kill you. And then nobody dies.
Except the assassins.
Yes. Yeah, there was a lot more direct confrontations
Mhm.
between Shang-Chi and Fu Manchu.
You want to know the best thing about this
But also,
comic
like-
actually is?
What's that?
Is I now have no expectations for the movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely not.
Like,
Okay, we'll get there, Chris. Okay. I'm sure this next question is one that we have many thoughts on. So we have briefly mentioned that there have been some racial issues in the way
Less than
race was
tasteful
presented.
choices in
Right.
words.
And also some sexism and stuff.
Mhm.
How do you feel about the way these things were approached in these comics?
terribly. I'm confused. Is he Japanese? Is he Chinese? Or is he supposed to be native?
Yeah.
Because the way he talks definitely comes across as like more of like an attempt to portray like native spirituality than Taoism. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
They reference so many things. I'm like, that's Japanese. That's karate. Which, yes, like as they mentioned, they do put that little blurb of history, which, yes, a lot of from the Shaolin area did bring martial arts to Japan and like they allude to that, sure, but it's weird. It's bad.
Yeah. I mean, oh, go for it,
no.
Cameron.
Okay, I was saying regretfully, like I wasn't surprised. Like it's one of those things that I expected to be here, with us going into just going into a comic about an Asian protagonist from the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I definitely think there are ways that you can handle that well. Like you can have a character that is racist and they can still be like, you can address that, but that's just not how things were when this was written. It's just everyone, including the good guys, all of them are racist.
One thing I will give them credit that ultimately, like I understand not understanding kung fu itself. Like you've heard of it, you're seeing it in some movies in the 70s and whatnot, but in general, the Chinese communities did keep that to themselves. That's one reason why they had such a problem with Bruce Lee, is that Bruce Lee wanted to teach anybody. And Chinatown didn't like that.
Yeah.
So like I'll give them some credit there that like access would have been limited. But because of that, maybe you just shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, kind of going off of what Cameron was saying, I'm not surprised, given that era, that, like, there was this situation of racism and sexism and all of that not fun stuff that came out in this series, but at the same time, like it is aimed towards younger kids, and like I guess there wasn't a lot of thought being put into how our morals getting translated to kids at this point in time. If this were a series that had come out today with like nothing changed, I would have been very surprised of like, what the heck, guys?
Cancel immediately.
Yeah, like straight up not okay. So there is some, I don't want to say leeway, for given like when it was written, but just like I feel like modern, we're seeing this a little bit more with older works where there's like a warning placed in front of like, hey, there are themes in this that we no longer support, or like terms and behaviors that we no longer support, or like can be sensitive to certain groups. And just having something in the front of like, we understand that there are some issues with this, and like if it bothers you, then like we're giving you a heads up so you can choose to step back now and move on to something else.
Travis in chat says if you think Shang-Chi is wild on that for that subject, then you shouldn't read Luke Cage / Power Man. Yeah,
Wasn't really
I mean,
planning on it.
Yeah, like I
good to know.
Yeah, I feel like again, it's one of those that's like, yeah, it's kind of what I would expect. Like,
yeah.
Although I will say, like, I know there are some more modern ones where like Shang-Chi crosses over with the Heroes for Hire, so like, I am kind of interested in that, but yeah, definitely for the time period. Yeah.
So, do you think there is a right way or a better way to approach these sorts of themes in fiction and comics?
Research?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better yet, let people from that culture write it. Boom.
Right. And in terms of right way, I think we saw that pretty recently with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like very, very much hit on the like those ideas of racism and things like that, and how that plays a part in modern culture in a way that handled it, I would say for the most part, pretty delicately, but also was still pretty like upfront with like, this is something that people experience. And so like, I definitely think there are definitely good like ways you can like bring that approach into fiction as a whole, let alone, as Chris just said, let the people who understand the culture write about the culture.
And we're seeing more of that today of like trying to portray things accurately and like bringing in consultants, and like there is more and more like we're trying to improve on that, which is good to see. And yeah, I mean, like, at least for me, because I'm going into this world of like storytelling, I've definitely thought about it and like sort of have this I guess like sticking out in my head of like if I ever work on a project where there's a community being portrayed that I'm not a part of, just making sure that I portray that community in a way that is unbiased and like fair to that community, and making sure that their characters are as developed and have as much character as every other basic white person. Like just looking at like, hey, like their skin color or their culture or whatever does not is fit into this one little box. Just like being aware that like stereotypes are just what they are, stereotypes, and not actually who these people are.
So in chat, my husband said the comics were made to shed light on the real world racism and break the stigma, from what I understand.
These ones specifically?
I mean, I don't know if that was their goal here. I guess they tried.
Yeah. That we can say they tried. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just expanding on what Cameron was saying about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, though, and like that being a good way to do it. There's definitely a way to approach like racism and things like that in fiction without being offensive about it. I think in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we got to see more of how racism affected the characters instead of just having a bunch of racist characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that you can like you can have characters in a modern story that are overtly racist, but they need to be called out in that story for their behavior.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That's kind of the extent of like, and I think that if this was intended to be this critique on the way that stereotypical white Americans view Asian cultures, like cool, like satire, like I can get behind that, but there needs to be that. I'd say that definitely feels like it needs to be more of like that overt challenge to these people. That's something I would like to have seen.
Something in a plot to question the existence of that like racism and such.
Like Shanine said, is that, you know, we don't see the racism affect Shang-Chi in this at all. He just gets called slurs and continues walking around town.
And Travis makes a good point in chat. In the 70s and 80s, information was hard to get a hold of due to lack of international and even interstate communication lines. And that's a really good point. And Travis has said a few of these throughout this, that I think that one of the challenges for us, like looking back on this, is we obviously with the internet, with social media, have so much more ready access to information, to other cultures, to other things than like the people would have had at the time this was going on. So like, and that even ties back, Chris, to what you were saying earlier about like, sure, maybe they didn't actually know Kung Fu outside of the few movies they'd seen, like that kind of thing. And there is definitely that challenge for us, I think, as we look back to look at it for where it was in its time.
But then, even for its time, though, like looking at it, then that quickly moves this from being, you know, just kind of lack of ignorance to straight up appropriation.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, completely. Yeah. 100%.
It's like you are commercializing someone's culture and not even doing a good job at representing it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like they should have went and talked to Bruce Lee first. That's all I'm saying. He would have taught you Kung Fu. You weren't going to find a teacher otherwise.
So, one race related thing that I found interesting, I guess, in some of the comics, they have like letters from the readers at the end. And one of the readers was really, really chapped at the color they were using for the Asian skin color. It's like, that's not what their skin looks like, and you should do better. And
Right?
which was something I had also been noticing. I'm like, they look so sickly and jaundiced.
I had the exact same thought.
But they do actually have at least a legitimate answer for why it is that way. They said, our printer offers us a predetermined selection of 48 different colors and shades, excluding black and white, which we have to work with. Within those limitations, there are only about 3 tones, which might approximate the skin hue. We have settled on what seems like the only possible color under the circumstances.
Sounds like a bad makeup industry.
Yeah, I mean, the printers at that time were obviously
much more limited.
not
I get it. I'm assuming they
prepared
probably
for racial variation.
I'm assuming they use that same tone for Native Americans.
Yeah.
Deanna has a good comment. Everyone has incorrect ideas on things. Not that it's excusable, but it's a bigger conversation. Yeah. And I think that kind of ties in with this idea of like, well, we only have these choices, so we have to use this one. And it's like, well, maybe that in itself is a incorrect idea of how, like, you don't have to do this. Like, you still made the choice knowing your limitation.
Yeah.
Like,
your limitations were handed to you beforehand.
Yeah.
Like, even his general character design is just problematic. And confusing. Like, that's something you can do. Like, when you are restricted on colors, you can make other choices to better portray them and then just give them the standard skin tone in terms of your design. Whereas, like, I feel like they pick the skin tone and then it's like, well, he'll be identifiable because of the skin tone.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Did any panels stand out to you in regards to the art?
Okay. So they did a great job. I think they're onomatopoeias. They're like sound words. Great job with that. Love the one when the boat blew up. The crack-a-womp. Like, love that. I do feel like they at least did something there. And then I'm going to try to show this on stream. I don't know if my phone's going to allow it. So there's a scene where everyone's firing guns. And then in the bottom corner, this guy, no gun. Did he get shot? Like, he's just kind of like falling over.
Oh, I remember contemplating that panel.
I was just like, what is happening here? So like, I took a snapshot of this so that I would have it for this conversation. But like, what is he doing? He just kind of falls out, like, because I think they're shooting at, if I remember right, they're shooting at a vehicle. So no one is shooting back. So I'm just super confused. Yeah. I don't know, but that one stood out to me.
I had one that kind of spurred a mini headcanon for me. Don't ask me why, I just did. But is this one where he's fighting some people in the forest, and there's a little newspaper in the bottom with a headline that clearly reads, "Steve Goes West." And I just pictured Captain America traveling west. And I was like, why is Captain America going to the west? What is happening? Like, I want to know why Steve is going west. Someone tell me. Like, it was a very clear, like, in your face, like, we're gonna make this random news headline readable to you because we can, and it's gonna say Steve goes west. And now I want to know why Captain America's going west. Like, same world, right?
That's how the comics get you.
Yeah.
I know.
Newspaper headlines.
Newspaper headlines. And then it just like disappeared in the next panel. But I was like, who is, if it's not Captain America, who is Steve and why is he going west? But it just made me laugh because I was like, this was a very intentional detail that they put in for like no real reason. And I want to know what the thought process was behind that.
I don't have anything specific now.
Okay. I really liked one full page. Shang-Chi was trapped in a labyrinth, and it like leads you through the whole labyrinth. Hopefully.
I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
I liked that one too.
It's fun. Like you just follow the words and him fighting assassins all the way through the labyrinth.
reminds me of those children puzzles, like
It's fun.
The
Yeah.
mazes that used to be on the back of cereal boxes and
Yep.
came in your coloring book and
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was like, oh, they did something cool. And then also
Yeah, I had that one marked too.
oh, that one's
like,
pretty early on too. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there.
It's very 70s. Very 70s.
Yeah.
So much going on.
Yeah, I like the maze as well. It was definitely one of those that made me wish I had the physical book because it was definitely kind of hard to read on mobile.
Yeah.
You couldn't like twist around with the words. So, and then Emma, for you, Travis says in chat that Steve is probably Steve Ditko, who was one of the original. He was one of the early comics artists. He did a lot of the Amazing Spider-Man comics.
Okay. Cool.
So that's like that. That's very
Thanks
like
for
that is Steve.
The call out. It just made me laugh, and I was like, I had this whole little headcanon where like, you know, everyone knows that Captain America is Steve Rogers, and then like Steve Rogers like goes on a tour to the West Coast or whatever. And it was a fun little headcanon that's like this headline for it. So it was just
free
like,
ad
who is
space
Steve?
for
Why
other
is he going
comics.
west?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna keep that as my whole thought process of just like Steve Rogers travels to the West Coast for some random reason. But I had another one from that swamp issue with the swamp thing that just great mental image for me. It was this one where he's just like trying to pull himself out of the monster, and it just seemed like a very comical moment of just like him trying to push his feet back against this guy, and just it was funny. So
All right. Any favorite quotes?
So I do feel like there are some good gems. One of them for me was in the museum when I think it's the museum. Yeah, when Shang-Chi's walking in, he's talking to the security guard, and the guard says, "Why don't?" Yeah, and he says, Shang-Chi responds, "Why do you fear touching the earth? Does not the concrete separate you from it enough?" And like that definitely is like the as the city kid. It's like, ooh, just at me next time.
yeah.
like that's just like such a like urban sprawl. Like why do we fear the ground so much that we have to cover it, and like things like that. And so like I thought that was like was very poignant, and I really liked that call out.
But also makes it sound like the Chinese never wear shoes.
There's also that, but like yeah. Like we can't all be winners in the 1970s Shang-Chi comics.
So I definitely never got to the issue where he fought the shark. But
what?
I'm trying to find. I didn't get that far. I jumped around a little bit per Shanine's recommendations.
That's probably why you didn't know the dolphin.
I mean, there was never really anything that stood out to me in terms of quotes.
I was too busy being frustrated.
It's fair.
I don't know. I feel like there were some good gems, but then it would be like one line from every other comic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another one I have is with Shadowstalker. And Shadowstalker says, "We are two, Shang-Chi, and they are 12. Are you prepared?" And Shang-Chi responds, "I was prepared, Shadowstalker, when they were 13. I thought that was a really cool, like, determination type thing. Of it's like, we're together now, but I was ready when we weren't. I thought that was cool.
Okay. I have one comedic line and a couple of serious ones. I don't remember when this happened, but Shang-Chi says, "Why do American conspirators whisper so loudly?"
I like that too.
"So I have walked into a trap."
I thought that was good.
Yep. And then from one of his conversations with his sister, back from when they were younger, I guess he was a child, she was indeterminate
Older?
age.
Yeah.
But they're talking about the beauty of a tree versus the beauty of a bonsai, and Shang-Chi can't decide which is more beautiful. And his sister says, "Therein lies the choice, little spirit. Will you allow yourself to be shaped by time and seasons change, or by the hand of man? Remember as you choose that time and seasons change have never been known to wield evil. And choose well, little spirit, for someday you may be called upon to wield your choice."
I would like the record to show that was one of my favorite quotes, and I was holding off on it because I read ahead in the questions and was going to bring it up later. Just want the record to show.
Got him.
But Shanine has once again taken my quote.
But once again,
Come on,
that quote seems very culturally confused.
Right. 100%.
Yes.
Like it definitely more so lends, granted you're pulling bonsai, okay, fine, Eastern culture, but a lot of like the language of that is very much so like native spiritualism, more so than Taoism that, you know, he would have been more familiar with. Frustrating.
I'm scared to say my last quote.
I believe in you.
I hope you weren't saving this one. So Shang-Chi, basically through the power of the mind, convinces Sir Dennis Nayland Smith that he is not paralyzed and can stand. And did you have this one?
No, I did not have that one down.
And yeah, he says, "What one knows, Sir Dennis, is not always the truth."
That's one that, like, cool, but like, are you like how did he know that he wasn't legitimately unable to walk?
Yeah.
Like
I
that
was
just
wondering that in that section too, of like, how did you come to that conclusion?
Like, you can't just like walk around and tell people that. Like, that's not how it works.
Your
Jesus
disability
did.
That part
is
was
not
not
real.
right,
Like
but
that's
the
just
quote.
not how it works.
Yeah.
That's
Cool
what Jesus
quote,
did, okay?
But very weird context.
Yeah.
Like it's a very good point, but
I was half expecting development of Shang-Chi there to be like also like because he is Fu Manchu's son, who, you know, is should be very versed in like medicine and even Eastern, you know, medicine methods. I was expecting to see some of that there, the portrayal of Eastern medicine there, but no, it's just
Walk.
it's like your will can make you stand up. Okay, if you will it. Maybe it's a very Doctor Strange-esque thing too, like where that like there's that mysticism that, you know, like using some sort of like that sense of will is what imbues magic. But
Any other quotes that I didn't steal? Okay. Do you think the words and pictures worked well together?
I mean, it was very wordy. Like,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. There were
very
both words
wordy.
and pictures.
there's definitely some panels where it's like I'm not sure what the flow is supposed to be, so you had to like look over it twice. Because I'm like, do I just down this column first, or and then you're like, nope, this is definitely the flow here.
I mean, there's cool and unique ways to do panels to enhance the story, but you have to make sure the flow works in a way that is easy for the viewer / reader to like know where to look. Like the Sandman does unique panels very well because you know where to read while still enhancing the story with these different ways to do the art. But like this, it was confusing at times.
Yeah, I was reading it on the Marvel Unlimited app, which allows you to like zoom in and you can like flick through the panels instead of just through the pages. So it like mostly guides you through the words. But yeah, even some of them were like, wait, am I reading this in the right order? And then you'd get weird like pacing moments where they'd have like one word on each panel. And you're like, I don't know if that all needed to be broken up like that.
Yeah.
And then you'd get a panel that was like all words. And you're like, no.
That's not right. It's not how this works.
Too many words.
If I wanted to read a bunch of words, I would have picked up a novel, not a comic book.
And like editing, there could have been some.
Yeah.
There was just a lot of unnecessary words and like over describing some things.
It's like you don't need to tell us and show us.
No need.
All right, let's talk themes.
So the quote that Shanine shared, this idea of where does beauty come from? There's this idea, it's kind of the like basically them shouting, this is the theme of this character. But it's that idea of are we what we're born into, or are we what we make for ourselves? Nature versus nurture. And like that specific part very much like yells the theme at you, but I think it's done in a like unique enough way that I think it works pretty well in that. And I thought that it was a cool way of representing that theme. With all the things that Chris brought up earlier. But as far as they go, or as far as like my expectations for this story, like I feel like it represented that idea in a good way. And I really liked how if they're going to hit us in the head with the theme, I liked the way that they did it there.
Yeah. I mean, it is definitely that like kind of going off of that / affirming that, like, the biggest theme I got out of it is just like, you are not bound by the structure of your parents, if you will. Like, if you learn new information, you are allowed to reassess your place in the world. Like,
Yeah, sometimes it's at a snap of fingers.
yeah. Like, it's, yeah. Like, given new information, you are allowed to change your position on where you stand in these beliefs. And like, if that requires, like, in some cases, the like worst option, like if that requires just leaving a family member and saying, hey, like, I don't like the way you're, you know, behaving or your beliefs, I can't be in contact with you anymore, like, you're doing more harm than good for the world, then that might be a scenario that happens given new information. Like, that is just a common theme of, like, you're allowed to reevaluate your position in life given new truthful information.
So one theme that I noticed a lot was just like the theme of power. We briefly see Shang-Chi's mother at the beginning, and Shang-Chi is asking, like, why did you marry him and have me when you know that he's evil? And she says, I could not love him, but I could hunger for his power I could transmit to a child of mine by him. I wanted a son who would be king. And I mean, if we're going from the comics, there seem to be saying that power corrupts, and yeah, yearning for more power only hurts people, basically.
And that conflict comes up with Shang-Chi throughout, kind of here and there, but it doesn't change him at all.
Well, that's why it gets to keep being a theme, Chris.
Yeah.
If your character doesn't develop, you can just use the same theme for 9 times.
But like he like uses it. He's like,
over again.
Periodically, he'll be like, "Yeah, I'm the master of kung fu." The question is if I'm using that ability correctly, or if I even have a right to use that ability. But yeah, it's like he just throws it out there that he's like, "I'm gonna go punch this guy." Yeah.
Yep.
In chat, Deanna says the problem is most people don't take constructive criticism well unless they already want to learn to improve. Shout out to Fu Manchu, never learning. Now, that guy definitely needed some constructive criticism.
Straight up just did not want to learn.
Yes. As like a funny theme, like how to not plan things. Like I feel like there's like, we kind of hinted on that earlier, that like literally all of his plans fail and we have no clue how he is supposed to be this mob boss. But like there is definitely this theme of like, I'm going to come up with this thought out plan that clearly has no way of it working, and whoa, it failed. And it also like that also applies to Shang-Chi, where it's like, I'm going to go and I'm going to sneak into this place. What am I going to do when I get there? I don't know.
Knock out 2 guards and use the Sandman dummy. Second one.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of parallels there between Shang-Chi and Fu Manchu. where they're both just like, y'all just really need to think like one step further ahead.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I think even where is it? It is in the Spider-Man issue, which it made me laugh. Fu Manchu says, "My schemes are intricate yet delicately fragile, much like the web of a spider." Which is
maybe get better plans.
But it's like no, this was not a very intricate plan. Actually, your plan was literally set up two teams to interact with these two heroes that claim they are working for the other hero. That was your plan. That's not intricate.
What are you talking about? They'll never see through it.
Yeah.
They'll never see through it. Yeah.
Classic Fu Manchu.
Classic Fu Manchu. Classic Mandarin.
All right. Any biblical or theological themes?
I think there's a theme of redemption throughout. Like, I mean, we very much get that as like Shang-Chi's like motivation of he has killed this person in service to his father and then realized the error in his ways and is at least to some degree seeking to redeem himself for that. Not doing a great job at it, but like he's very much trying to like right his place in the world. Yeah. And that's all I got.
Well, and it even goes to the Colonel guy, the guy in the wheelchair, like with intentions of just like not harming him, but like helping him with the fact that he's in a wheelchair. Like, granted, it's odd that it's just like, you can walk. Okay, bye. Not going to tell you why or how I know that, but like his intentions in that whole scenario were good. And like, right in the grand scheme of things.
But also, once again, guy in the wheelchair. Oh, I no longer want to seek revenge on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a cool story, bro. I'll see you around, okay? Oh, by the way, you want to go to Miami?
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was one interaction from what I said was my least favorite comic, but Shang-Chi is talking to Lu Sun in the swamps of Florida and says, "But if I can combat an evil, I must do so. I cannot stand aloof." And Lu Sun says, "Can a man destroy evil?" And I'm just like, oh, this is a good opportunity for a Jesus juke.
Yeah. Because you know who can destroy evil.
Hey.
Got him.
Well, one man did.
Yeah.
What we don't see in the comics is immediately after that, Shang-Chi was actually baptized. We know he's a Christian from that. No.
Yep. All right. Was there anything that surprised you? Right. What surprised me was the super sick burns. One of these was from the Yellow Claw storyline. So if you guys didn't get that far, you would have missed it. But one guy flings a briefcase at another guy and says, "Right in your dirty spy face." I was like, oh.
Got him.
Got him.
Burn.
That cuts
On
deep.
the elementary school playground.
And then
Bunch of
another one.
7-year-olds making up burns over here.
Yeah.
I believe this was from the Spider-Man one when Shang-Chi is fighting Fu Manchu's team that are saying they're from Spider-Man. And he says, their talent, it seems, is the equal of their wisdom. It is virtually non-existent.
Yeah.
Ooh. So yeah, those were fun for me.
Yeah. There's a few of those. They're just like in the like in the middle of like this novel of text.
Yep.
I was surprised that there wasn't as much like actual, like, as I previously mentioned, they didn't lean into the Eastern mysticism aspect.
Mhm.
Like, that's something they do heavily with Iron Fist, but they don't touch any bit here.
So Iron Fist had already existed when this came out, right? Because obviously he makes an appearance.
Yeah, I guess if he makes an appearance, yeah, he's in Giant Size #1. Yeah, so
I mean, it could be that they felt like they were like bombarding Iron Fist with all of that, and so like they didn't want to put that in with.
So they gave the Eastern mysticism to the white guy and left it away from the Asian character.
Well, that's like the other half of my thought is like it doesn't make sense that they would then do that. Like,
I mean, you don't have to go like super deep into it, but like,
no,
you can allude to certain aspects. Like the most mystic thing which it comes from an elixir apparently, is Fu Manchu's like extended life.
Yeah.
Which apparently only works for him because someone else has a heart attack from it.
Yeah. So Shang-Chi premiered 6 months before Iron Fist. But the comics that we're reading are after Iron Fist comes out. So
interesting. I mean, it is definitely, given the sort of backstory and context of both, a good opportunity. It was a good opportunity for them to sort of play two sides of the same coin. Like have like tell sort of the stories of these two different characters and their experiences with these different Asian cultures from these different points of view. Like the white man who did not start off there, essentially, and this sheltered Asian kid who like just wants to right the wrongs of his father. But they didn't do that. So
right. Any final thoughts on the comics before we get into our final fun questions?
If you have any recommendations for good comics that are on Marvel Unlimited, I now have that for a month. So happy to read something that's not this.
Mood. Relatable. I'll actually probably remember to read it next time.
Okay, so having read this, what are some of your hopes and predictions for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings?
I feel like my base expectations for this are already better than my base expectations for the comic book, like just overall. But I don't really think I have any. But the biggest one would probably be, if they're going remotely off the comics, some kind of strife between he and his dad, which I'm pretty sure there already is based on the few little tidbits of trailers that I've seen.
From what we've seen in the trailers, definitely, we're going to get some of that conflict. Although in the trailers, Shang-Chi is pure Asian, whereas he's half American in the comics apparently.
Hmm.
American mother, I guess. I don't know. I have like all my expectations are based on the trailers and the current reviews that are out for it, and I have high expectations. I feel like though it's not going to be anything like his character in the comics, which I'm very pro at this point.
Yeah, which I think is
Like,
the best, like
Which
the
I
best
also
thing we can
think,
hope for.
yeah, like I think I think it was a great choice of character because they know they can't portray him like the comics, so they can take this character and do whatever they want with him as a result. Because if they were to try to from modern context, you know, if you tried to do this,
it would not go over well.
it's not going to turn out well for you. So like, well, as a result, it's a obscure character. Not a ton of people have experience with the comics. We don't have to worry about that. We could just literally create awesome representation and focus on actually kind of creating a character that just has the same name as this actual comic book character.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm expecting to see.
I feel like too that the MCU in the situations where they have either had to or just in general have sort of updated or adjusted characters from the comics to on screen, they've done really well with it and like honored the original comics while making the necessary changes and just updating the characters to fit with the times, both like literally and the times within the like MCU, which granted is like still modern day.
Mhm.
But overall, I do feel confident in MCU's ability to make those adjustments because they've been doing well with that.
And the
over
series
the past years.
does seem, or the movie does seem like it's going to lean a little more into that mysticism aspect, which also very pro. Like it brings in certain cultural things that we're aware of now, which
Just basically just echo what everyone else has said, and even what was said earlier. I think one of the things that I'm most excited about this, I think Emma had said this, is that like one of the things that these comics seem to do is they kind of present an interesting question and then just like hard turn away from that question and just never like look back at it.
Yeah.
And so like there's definitely some of the themes of this that I think would be very interesting to see. From an MCU perspective, I'm very interested to see the father-son dynamic, since we haven't really dealt with that. Like we kind of have Howard and Tony Stark, but we don't want and we didn't really see them interacting since like Howard died. We've seen them separately, but we haven't really seen them interact, except for, you know, time travel. But and so like I'm kind of interested to see that side of it, just because that is going to be new. And then overall, like just as we've said, I think that the most interesting part is that this is kind of just giving them a segue of saying we're going to kind of reboot this character to match what's in the MCU, and hopefully that's a good thing. Like that's kind of what I'm hoping that we see from this, is that this leads to either, and again, because I haven't read the modern Shang-Chi, so maybe they're good. I have one on Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah,
but I would definitely think that this gets me hopeful for is that if that movie can land this character, that this can be the defining version of that character for a lot of people. Just as I'm hoping that we get Anthony Mackie's Captain America as the defining Captain America for some people, like for kids and like especially just of kids, like that there are going to be kids that are not going to have known Chris Evans as Captain America. Their Captain America is going to be Anthony Mackie. So, and I kind of hope we can get to that with Shang-Chi, because it can't be worse than the comic.
At least the original comic.
At least
like,
yes.
So I've only watched the trailer like once, so everything I'm about to say might be something that everyone already knows. But my husband was telling me that Fu Manchu will not be in the MCU because his character is not great.
Yeah. Yep.
And will be replaced with the Mandarin. So I don't know if that'll be like a direct replacement, like making them father and son now, or if he'll just be like the villain.
Taking on the role.
I think they are doing a direct replacement.
Okay.
Where his father is the person who is the Mandarin, compared to the Iron Man 3 fake Mandarin.
Yes.
This one is
Kevin
real.
The
Bacon or
Mandarin
whoever it was.
do-over.
Yes, this is real Mandarin. So,
And yeah, he had been looking up what the 10 rings were and what they have to do with Shang-Chi. And they have nothing to do with Shang-Chi.
got him.
Of
But
course.
they do have to do with the Mandarin.
Right.
So
Okay, so it was a storyline that existed within the comics.
Yeah. So the Mandarin, and in the comics, there are 10 literal rings.
Like finger rings.
Yeah, finger rings.
Okay.
And I think they each have a different power.
Yes.
So it's like Lord of the
And so-
Rings.
Yes, but less cool powers.
Like they're tied to different martial arts essentially. So like
Okay.
aware of a specific ring would know that martial art essentially.
Oh, that's cool.
But definitely not
you wear all
definitely
10.
not what's going on in the movie.
I mean, that is definitely the like MCU style, like taking different pieces of different stories and sort of combining them and making them more dramatic.
Yeah.
So
Also, Chris, we now have precedent. My character in D&D is going to need to find 10 magic rings that give them powers. Shakar, here we come, freight train.
I thought you wanted a gun axe.
I do also really want that gun axe. That gun axe is awesome.
Man.
We'll get there. See, here's the thing. I can wear the magic rings and wield the gun axe.
I'm
These
not
are not
giving your
mutually
character all those
exclusive.
all those things. Now you
yeah,
have
I don't even have a crossbow yet.
Hey, you made your choice.
Listen, I'm poor.
meanwhile, I'm just sitting over here perfectly content with my blank toilet. Like, you know, I'm not too hard to please.
Okay, my husband says the 10 ring thing is just speculation on his part, but it sounds reasonable to me. And so, yeah, I guess I'm hoping for a Mandarin that people can get behind and not be super mad about. And yeah, I do think seeing like a storyline with him and his childhood best friend would be really fascinating.
Also, Deanna says she wants a trident.
not to kill him off. Yeah, I already know Deanna wants to try it. I knew that before we started. And I'm working on it, okay? I actually think Deanna might be closest to getting her. Well, actually, no. Poppy's gonna be closest to getting her crossbow. But
I was gonna be real offended if someone was closer than me. I've put a lot into this.
Gonna help with a revolution.
Yes. Okay. In chat, my husband has said, as a kid, I watched the Iron Man cartoon and the Mandarin is his main villain. Lots of ring action and Fing Fang Foom action. So I would also be down for dragons.
Which we've seen in one of the trailers. So.
and we know
I did
Dragon.
not watch the trailer
Yeah.
very closely.
Yeah. Hopefully this isn't the dragon that Iron Fist has to punch to take his heart or whatever.
I mean, technically, Iron Fist isn't part of the MCU currently, right?
Right. It's it was kind of
Daredevil
unclear.
is technically
Unclear if that has
So-
been errated and they are no longer part
Yeah.
of MCU lore. or
Yeah.
not.
So
Well,
yeah.
so the thing is, isn't it confirmed that Daredevil is because he's like gonna be in Spider-Man or whatever?
There's
still don't
only
think that's
rumors.
confirmed.
There's
Yeah,
only
there's
rumors?
Nothing's confirmed.
Okay,
And
Yeah.
my
okay. Because
Deep
I'm
hope.
I'm dying
Yeah.
hoping for that.
Yeah,
but,
that's basically where we're at right now. Is people are wanting Charlie Cox, and there's rumors of him being in the movie. But
'cause
There's nothing
would
I want
love
more
that
in the MCU.
so much.
I want everything from Netflix to still be MCU.
Oh yeah, I think that's the case for all of us, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, because mostly Jessica Jones,
that's good.
such a
Yeah.
good series.
Not to mention a solid actor choice for a Purple Man. Well, here for it. Definitely scared me for a while, but here for it.
Okay, Shanine, we got one more.
All right. So we saw Shang-Chi get ambushed at the Empire State Building. There was the Guggenheim, Marine Land, China, London, Times Square. You know, what would be, oh, Buckingham Palace was in there. What would be the worst world landmark to be attacked by martial arts assassins at?
Also, he gets attacked in pyramids, right? In Egypt. That's another one of those like landmarks.
Oh,
Is it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like any landmark, I'm going to just go off one of the ones that was there of Empire State Building. Any landmark where the landmark itself limits your ability to leave.
Yeah, I was thinking the very tippy top of the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
Like
Somewhere high.
Yeah.
Middle of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a great one as well. Of like
one wrong step and you're just like over the edge and done for.
Because what, you got attacked at Rushmore?
oh yeah. You
Oh,
also
yeah.
got attacked at Mount Rushmore.
Man,
That was indeed an event that occurred.
that one. Yeah.
That did indeed
mhm.
happen.
At this point, you just need like a series of postcards where it's like this landmark plus like, this little guy and the friend getting attacked.
In chat, Deanna says the pyramids, and Travis says Alcatraz. All good choices.
All right. There's our Shang-Chi book club. I think it's obvious that we highly recommend it.
Yes, the best thing that we've ever read on this.
Definitely read all the Shang-Chi you can.
So while we were doing this, I did pull up like a recent comic. Read those. They look really good.
Yeah, I was talking to someone about this earlier, and I was just like, I have a feeling the more recent comics are considerably better.
I heard that people didn't like those either.
I don't know.
But
Can't
I
be
don't
worse.
know why. but-
did
Definitely
they
can't be
like
worse.
them? Did they like them less or more than the basics?
I
Like that's the
don't
real
know.
question. Like, because if they like them less or more or whatever, like,
I mean,
are they just basically better whether or not you like them, or
they are definitely better. Like
putting personal opinions aside, is it better or worse?
like actually written by Asians.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Our next book club will be on September 30th, it looks like. And we will be reading Dune by Frank Herbert to prepare for the movie coming out on October 1st.
Literally the next day.
Woo! Watch our book club and go see the midnight showing.
Do they still do midnight showings?
yeah,
It's like 10 o'clock or something. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Assuming theaters are still open by then.
All right. Thanks for hanging out at our book club, everyone. We're excited for the movie
Yes.
and for the possibilities of the Shang-Chi character.
Tune in eventually for our Shang-Chi spoiler cast, where hopefully we will love that movie and talk about how much better it was than this.
I mean, we are either way. It's going to be a lot better than this.
Touche. Like it could,
yeah.
This does not set a very high bar, which is good for, I guess. I mean, good for the movie.
All right, so Shang-Chi, new favorite Marvel hero, still indeterminate. We are First Geek 411 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Come chat with us on our Discord server. Check out our cool stuff at our Redbubble store. Email us at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Watch live on our Twitch and find our videos on YouTube. Rate and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and check out the show notes at 1geek411.com. I am the Hoot and Howl on Twitter and Hoot and Howl Tales, TALES, on Instagram.
I am not prepared with an eye on all platforms.
I'm Humor Whittle.
And I'm not so foreign.
Go read a book.
Just not this one.
Wash your hands.